Thanks for joining us at XM.com for this Forex Preview video. We'll be having a look at the Bank of England meeting on Thursday and, of course, the latest developments in the Brexit saga. I'm Christina Marujas, and joining me today is Marios Hadjikyriacos, investment analyst. It's a very important week, Marios, for sterling with the Brexit deadline fast approaching and the Bank of England meeting on Thursday. Even though we're not expecting any action by the central bank right now, it is widely anticipated to keep a dovish stance. Do you think the Bank of England will signal further easing in the new year, and how might the pound react?
Hello, Christina. Yes, I very much believe that they will maintain a very dovish stance, that they could signal more action in case that the Brexit negotiations fail here. So let's examine what happened at the last meeting. The central bank increased its QE dosage for the UK economy, and it argued that we had a new lockdown, economic growth might turn negative again in the fourth quarter, the unemployment rate could continue to rise into the next year, so we should act with force. Now, since then, we've had some relatively mixed developments. The good news were that vaccines were finally announced and rolled out. We even had the first UK citizen getting vaccinated last week. Now, this is great news for policymakers. It eliminates several of the longer-term risks, but we've also had some negative developments. For example, even though we've had the lockdown, case numbers in the UK remain stubbornly high. The lockdown has not been entirely lifted yet, and some areas are even going into reverse. The capital of London, for example, is going into even tougher restrictions this week. To top everything off, you have 2 weeks left until the Brexit transition period ends, and there's still no trade agreement. And I think that's the biggest variable for the central bank right now. Whether a deal is reached soon or whether we see these talks collapse will be the single most important variable for whether the economy needs more stimulus. So, long story short, I think that the central bank has its hands tied by Brexit right now, by the Brexit uncertainty. It's in a wait and see mode, but we might still get some relatively dovish signals. So, for example, the bank could outline what kind of actions it could take in case a trade deal is not found. Perhaps they could signal that more stimulus might be appropriate in case of no deal. I think that's a likely scenario, and I believe that would argue for a drop in the pound. There is the other scenario that the central bank doesn't mention any further easing, perhaps afraid of the political backlash if it does, but I would argue that is a lower probability scenario. If you take the vaccines out of the picture, there's really nothing that the bank will be particularly happy about, and the vaccines are a longer term story.
Turning to Brexit, we have entered the 11th hour regarding Brexit. The end-of-year deadline is right around the corner, and both sides have a lot to lose by a no deal, and yet they seem unable to reach a compromise. Is a no-deal exit a possibility right now?
It's definitely a possibility. However, I would argue that the deal is still the most likely scenario. We've had a lot of conflicting headlines lately, but if you filter out the noise, it seems that we have made some progress in recent days. So the EU wanted the right to impose tariffs if the UK didn't keep up with its environmental and labor standards in the future, but apparently the EU has dropped that demand, and both sides have agreed to an independent arbitration system that would resolve any future disputes. So that's a great sign. Now, the problem is the clock has almost run out, just 2 weeks to go before tariffs automatically kick in. Can we get something within the next few days? I believe we can. I believe that the deal is still more likely than not. Both sides have way too much to lose, and Boris Johnson is really famous for taking negotiations to their absolute breaking point before conceding. I do believe that the ultimate destination for sterling may be higher from here, but I think it's going to be a stormy ride until we get there, and that any deal will probably come at the very last minute, maybe a few days before the end of the year.
Marios, thank you for joining me today, and thank you for watching this Forex Preview here at XM.com.